All right. Hey, everybody. This is Ryan from Plan Chats. Thank you for joining us today. What is it, August 4th? Can you believe it's August already? Aye. But we are so lucky today because we have a very special guest with us, Michelle Olah from Florida. Michelle Olah, let me just tell you, she is a world language superstar, and we're so happy. I'm so happy she's here with us today.
Oh,
Um,
shucks.
yeah, Michelle is a current instructional strategist for Wayside Publishing, and she's also the president-elect of NEL, which is a very important national organization. It's the National Network for Early Language Learning. And so Michelle is a dear friend of mine. And Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. This will be fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Nevada, you know some of the Nevada peeps.
I do.
And
I know a few.
yes,
I
you
know.
do. And so for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your experience in education, etc.
Sure. So I was a middle school Spanish teacher. I actually came to teaching Spanish as a second career. It's kind of a funny story. I always thought I wanted to be a teacher growing up. And then I went to college and I took my first ed class and they scared me, they scared me out of it. And I transferred out and I still did Spanish and I did anthropology. I was gonna be an archaeologist instead. And international studies when the Soviet Union was still a thing. And then I actually opened a coffee house with a friend of mine, and I ran a coffee house in Duluth, Minnesota for 10 years. And then I decided, you know what, I wanted to go back and do what I wanted to do. And so I went back to school and for a Spanish teacher. So I got my K through 12 teaching Spanish degree in Minnesota. And at that time, believe it or not, there's not a lot of need for Spanish teachers in Minnesota at that point. And Florida was begging for Spanish teachers. And so I actually was hired from Minneapolis, Minnesota to teach in Florida without ever having been down here. They never met me. They looked at my resume and they hired me. So I packed up, moved to Florida. I spent 8 years in the classroom teaching middle school. I love middle school.
Middle school.
Middle school.
Woo.
People don't understand us. And I say the same thing, like, I can't believe you teach high school, and they say, I can't believe you taught middle school. But I actually miss those crazy middle school kids. And then I taught virtual school for several years, virtual school Spanish. Like almost 3 years, I taught that online 100%.
Gosh, you were so ahead of your time.
Yeah, I know, right?
Virtual school.
And so I had some unique experiences this year where I'm like, hey, I actually know something about this, So it was very different. Don't get me wrong. It was not like what the craziness of the spring went like, but I did have some insights I could help teachers with. And then I did go to a district office in Florida. So I was a curriculum specialist, and my job was to work with teachers, and I got to coach and work with some amazing teachers, elementary, middle school, and high school. And I did that for about 5 years. And then just last year, I came to Wayside Publishing as an instructional coach, world languages instructional coach. So that's my resume in like a minute.
Yes, no, it's very impressive. And I know how passionate you are about education, just about education first, I think. And you're so passionate about world languages and helping teachers. But Absolutely. what got you, I love to hear stories about what piqued people's interest in world languages. So what got you involved in Spanish?
So, well, I grew up in a very small town in Minnesota, and we had one language option, and that was Spanish. But I always loved Spanish. I had a teacher, Mrs. Ebnett, who just, made it come to life. And I love doing that. And it's really funny because you never know. I always tell this story because you never know what is going to spark kids, like just like that path where they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best ever. And I actually remember there was a lesson on Las Meninas and the picture. And I said, you know what? I have to see that in person. Like I want to go to Spain. I'm like 16 in Minnesota. And I want to go to Spain and see this picture in person. Because we talked about it and the different, perspectives and all this stuff. And my family, actually, we'd never been on a big family vacation. And my dad decided we were all going to go, and I convinced them that we should go to Spain. So a family of 6, with me having 1 year of Spanish under my belt, and I was pretty confident. Oh boy, did that not last. But we went. My dad, I still am so amazed that my dad did this. I was the oldest at 16, so we were like 16, 14, 12, and 10. Nobody knew Spanish. He rented a van, like not like a minivan, but like a full on like van, and we drove through Spain and Portugal.
Wow.
And I have so many stories about that. But that really, just from then on, I've been, I love the language. I love the people. I love just exploring different ways of being. The opportunities and just the perspectives that open up through learning any language, honestly. So that's kind of how, or what originally got me loving Spanish.
Wow, that's so great. It's always those memories, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you can remember like tastes and smells and
Oh,
everything. So, it's so great. And we're really
absolutely.
lucky in world languages because it's such a sensory
Mm-hmm.
content area that we get to experience that all the time and turn students on to
Yeah,
those sensations.
yeah.
So now you're president-elect of NEL,
Yes.
and it's such an important organization. And we're advocating in Nevada for early language learning.
Wonderful.
Sometimes it's hard because we don't have a lot of support
Mm-hmm.
for early language learning. So talk to us a little bit about NEL, because it is a phenomenal organization.
Yeah, so it's funny how I got involved with NEL too. Obviously, being a world language person, you want to start the love of that language as young as possible, right? But I did have, even though I taught middle school, so NEL is the National Network for Early Language Learning. It's a national organization. We have representatives in each of the states. So we have a regional representative and then state representatives, and we work together to our motto is to advocate, educate, and collaborate, and that's what our mission is to do, and to support early languages, whether it's dual language, immersion, FLES, flex, whatever that is, whatever it looks like. And so when I was at the district office, I had the opportunity to be an administrator over the elementary world language program, and seeing the impact that these teachers had with even in the short amount of time that they actually got to spend with students, but the love of the language that they instilled in students from that young age, and the impact they could make going forward, was so meaningful to me, that even though I work now for a secondary textbook company, I just that's where my heart is. And NEL does serve K-8. So even that middle school part of me, is satisfied in there as well. But it's a great organization. We had a wonderful conference this summer online, and there's a lot of momentum. We just had a leadership conference actually today for the state reps, where they got to collaborate with each other, make plans of how we can advocate and move early languages forward across the country. So it's a great organization. I'm very proud to be a part of it. So wonderful people involved. So
That's so great. If someone was interested in becoming involved with NEL, how do they find you, or
yeah,
what
so
do
it's
they look
easiest
for?
because just nnell.org. And one of the things I will say, like shameless plug, is that we had the most amazing summer institute where we had Rebecca Aubrey, and we had Rebecca Bluewolf. We had just amazing presenters we did it 5 days, which was a lot. But we recorded all of those. And if you're a Nell member, you have access to all of those recordings of these amazing Nathan Lutz, Amanda Seawald, we had just a fantastic presenters. And so if you go to nell.org and you become a member, you can have access to all of that as well as future PDs. So
Wow.
any K-8s, we're here to support you.
K8.
So, yeah.
Yes. And middle school, they need support. A lot of support.
Absolutely.
Also.
Absolutely.
We have a connection to Nell in Nevada because one of our principals from Washoe County, from Reno, Chrissy Brown, she won a big award in Washington, D.C. last year.
So our award for Nell goes to basically community members that for outstanding support for early language learning. So it's somebody that is not a teacher or directly involved with it, but that they support programs. And yes, Chrissy was nominated and she won last year and was presented at ACTFL with her award. So
awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the work you do with early language learning.
Yeah, it's the most fun I have, honestly. They're both the children and the teachers are wonderful.
Speaking of language learning, Michelle, we met in Columbus, Ohio in 2015.
I think that's when it was. Yes.
2015.
Seems like longer ago and then just yesterday. It just depends, right?
And we were part of LIL, which is the Leadership Initiative in Language Learning. And I know it transformed both of our, really our careers and our outlooks and our philosophies. Talk to us a little bit about that experience of LIL and now how you're more involved in LIL as like from behind the scenes.
Yeah, so LIL, I think to me, so at the time I was the president-elect of the Florida Foreign Language Association. Had no clue what I was doing, as often is the case when you agree to do something and you never know what's going to happen. And there was something out there that said there was this language initiative and language learning, and one person from each state was, could attend. And I just said, hey, President, hey, Frank, I really want to go. And he's like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know, but I want to be there. And just to be a part of that, where you've got, a lot of times we get content PD, but we don't get content PD and leadership PD at the same time. So how do you combine these things? Because, when we get down to it, we're promoting proficiency. We want our students to learn. We want to be able to support teachers, but we don't always naturally have those leadership skills of how to do that. How do you have these conversations with people? How do you, sometimes tough conversations? How do you convince people? How do you, create buy-in? How do you get momentum going? How do you overcome objections? All these things, they don't necessarily come naturally. So LIL really brought together for me both the professional development of how to really, like Greta Lundgaard, Todd Bowen, and Rita Escalas, all these amazing people that really took the time to mentor and to show you, like, this is how you have a conversation with somebody, and offer, feedback to them in a way that they'll hear it and listen to it. And so that really, both that professional development and then the community as well, of just that networking, just like with Nell, any networking where you bring together people that think similarly and support each other and believe in each other and push you to be like better and more and in a good way. That was what really made a difference to me. It took me out of my shell a lot actually, and put me in a place where I could feel comfortable working on with my strengths and things that I'm good at, and to develop those. So, and then Ryan and I, and Tanya Brahm and Christy Gillian, and we got to be part of the mentoring of new LIL leaders for the last couple summers, which has been, again, an amazing opportunity that I'm so thankful that I've had.
Yeah,
So,
it's so great to experience it as a participant, and
yeah,
then to nurture
yeah.
and support the people coming up.
And then
Great
pass that
experience.
on, and then really, in a deliberate way. I think sometimes we love a thing so much we just hold on to it, and we do have to let it go and pass it on. So you can't have a leadership institute where, a leadership group where the same people hold on to the leadership. So to pass that leadership on to the next group is painful but wonderful, right? To be
Yes.
able to do that. So and
Yes.
I think the same is with our students, right? I mean, I think it's the same way. We want them to take it and own it and, do what they're going to do with the language, without us, So I think there's a lot of parallels of that letting go and letting people do it themselves. So
Yes. Yes. What did they say in Frozen? Let it go.
let it go. I won't sing.
Oh, dang.
No. I almost failed choir. That's a different story. Yeah, how I almost got kicked out of chorus.
You never wanted to be a music teacher.
No.
Um,
Not my strength. Let's just leave it at that.
so you touched on something, a very a good word in world languages, which is proficiency. And Michelle, when I think about you and I see you and I hear you speak and I attend your sessions, you are a proficiency leader in world language education, and it's hard work. So I just talk to us a little bit about that journey,
Yeah.
and why does it matter? Why should teachers and parents and students care about language proficiency?
That's a great question. So for me, remember that trip to Spain that I took when I was
Yes.
16? I often think back to that, and really that's why I'm a proficiency preacher or whatever, and I've been doing it a long time. But when I went there, I was such a good student, and I conjugated verbs so beautifully, and I had all of that. I knew all the tenses. I could write them out. We had these big verb tests that I mastered. And when I got to Spain, in about 5 minutes, I was in tears, because I had none of the ability to communicate. I knew so much about the language. I could tell you what the tenses were, the forms, for a Spanish one, but I thought it was pretty hot. But when I got there, I joked that I looked at the menu. We were in Retiro Park, and I look at the menu, and I've got my whole family behind me, and they're like, order, right? And I'm like, okay. And I was so overwhelmed that I picked anchoas. I ordered 6 sandwiches de anchoa, anchovy sandwiches, because I picked the first thing on the menu because I had no skills. I had no anything. Like, I'd never seen an authentic resource. I don't know. And so it's so important to really bring those authentic resources, that authentic language, those authentic tasks that students may actually encounter, and that ability to critically think and to do all of that. I think from my own experience, is so important. And to do that right from the very beginning. And so that's why I'm very passionate about proficiency and interculturality and authentic resources and all of those things that really have proven that get students moving forward in the language and be able to use the language.
Wait, what? We want students to use
Yeah.
content outside of school?
It's pretty important. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes, it's extremely important. Um, well, Michelle, thank you so much for
This was fun.
being on Plan Chats today.
Absolutely.
You're now a Plan Chat survivor.
Right? I was nervous.
Yes.
No, it was awesome. Thanks for having it. This is great. I loved it.
But I really appreciate it, and like I said, I appreciate everything you do for the profession.
Thank you.
I almost said oppression. Oh my gosh, that was a Freudian slip.
That's funny.
Thinking of schools opening. Oh my gosh.
Right?
But thank you for everything you do for our profession, and just for education and students and teachers in general. So
Oh, thank you.
you're a true inspiration and you motivate me every single day.
Right
So,
back at you, Ryan. Right back at you.
So let's see. So next week on Plan Chats, we're going to have a new perspective, which is so great. We will have a new board member, a trustee of Washoe County School District, newly elected. He hasn't started yet, so go easy on him next week. His name is Kurt Thigpen, and he will join us to give his perspective on education and world languages from the school board perspective. So should be very interesting.
That sounds fascinating.
Yes, please tune in, Michelle. And Michelle,
I will. I do.
You have something similar. I wanted for you
Oh, yeah,
to
that's
plug
right.
this.
Yeah, for Wayside Publishing, we did a Facebook group called Proficiency Talks Live, and it's a community on Facebook where we focus on proficiency. We have people from all over the world. We do live, some not like this, but similar. We'll do panel discussions or live PD on there. So, yeah, go ahead. I encourage everyone to join us over there.
All right, Proficiency
Awesome.
Talks.
Proficiency Talks. Yep, it's Wayside Publishing, but it's not like a textbook thing. It's sponsored by them. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and
yeah, it was great.
We'll see everyone next week with school board member Kurt Thigpen. Be safe, everyone. If you're going back to school, be safe. Make good choices. Have those students wear their masks and keep them away from each other.
Right.
Yes.
Good luck.
Yes.